Okay, so thank you, Elise, for the lovely introduction, and to all of you. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from wherever you're joining us from. I'm excited to be here and share my experiences and passion with you. So let's set some expectations. Why beyond the status quo, unleashing creativity in change-averse environments? Well, because creativity and change are symbiotic. There are lots of definitions for creativity, but the one I want to share with you today, and I promise this will be the only time I read a slide to you, is from Encyclopedia Britannica. So they define creativity as the ability to make or otherwise bring into existence something new, whether a new solution to a problem, a new method or device, or a new object or form. And I want to repeat the first part again. The ability to make or otherwise bring into existence something new. I love this because creativity is often conflated with being artistic. And while yes, artists are creative, not all creative people are artistic, okay? Not all creative people are artistic. And we do ourselves and each other a disservice when we narrow that concept. And we'll talk a little bit about how that shows up in change-averse environments. So we have a really big topic and just a tiny bit of time. So we'll keep it high level. And because we won't have time for Q&A, I want to invite you to connect with me on LinkedIn. If I haven't found you already, please find me. I love discussion and connection, so I'd love to hear from you. But getting right into it, I want to share a story with you. My career path has some twists and turns, and the constant thread throughout all of my experiences has been working in a creative role in a change-averse environment, maybe with the exception of my current role at Exeter, where creativity and change are really our livelihood. But from working with ultra-conservative engineers to analytical subject matter experts and within highly hierarchical and bureaucratic structures, my creative roles have not always been by definition, but they've always been by choice, and they have always been by necessity. It's how I create joy in my work. And so when I talk about creativity, it's part of how I identify myself and how others have typically identified me. And so the story I want to share really caught me off guard. So my husband and I have a daughter, and when she was born, I became a mother for the first time with all the change that goes along with that. And here's how that showed up for me one day. A while back, she was 9 months old, and it was the middle of summer. It's beastly hot. We're sitting in the backyard in one of those little baby pools, just a couple inches of water. And I'm sitting there with her, and we have a small plastic cup. And that's it. And she looks at me with her beautiful eyes and chubby cheeks. And then I realize she isn't looking at me. She's actually looking to me, as if to say, Mommy, what do you got? What are we going to do next? And the thought I had was actually, oh no, what are we going to play? You know, I've got this little cup. A good mom would know what to do next. They'd have the right thing. And I let my anxiety about being a new mom get in the way. And then I felt a little more fear. I thought, oh no, I'm getting older. Is this what it's going to be like? Like my creativity is running out? What if I lose it? My daughter's looking to me. I don't want to be out of touch. I don't want to be boring. All these big thoughts from this tiny little exchange, right? And then I realized, even a little embarrassed, that I was just out of practice, right? This was just the real life example of the creativity warm-up, alternate uses. So, okay, I got this. This is familiar to me. But that feeling really stuck with me, that I was out of practice. I've been in creative roles. I've been setting aside time to be creative. How could I not be sharp? And that moment really changed how I view creativity. And it's been paramount in my approach to unleashing it in change-averse environments. And my takeaway is that creativity is a muscle. It's like a muscle, and we all have it. And it's about how you use it. So with many of my curiosities, I researched and I read, and I came across an article called Innovation is Not Creativity in Harvard Business Review. And the author shares that according to their research, creativity isn't the problem. The surveyed organizations overwhelmingly felt they were better at having creative ideas and worse at executing them. They even turned it into an equation. creativity times execution equals innovation. And they write that you'll get more out of increasing execution than increasing creativity. So I had a very strong reaction to this article when I read it. It made sense to me. It's very logical. There's an equation. It's Harvard Business Review. But my problem was this was the exact opposite of my experience across organizations that are change-averse. I was experiencing the alter ego of this change-hungry organization the article was describing. And so I started to pay attention, very close attention. I rehashed my lessons learned from past work. I started bringing new and different approaches to my current work. I started pushing expectations, and this is what I learned. What if I told you that many change-averse environments have a few common characteristics that, when addressed, can help you unleash creativity and implement it? Change-averse environments are that way for many reasons, and how they get there is not universal. But I've experienced that they often have some commonalities, and if you recognize them, it can help you break through. And I'll break that down for you in 3 points. The first point is that change-averse environments often lack self-awareness. Okay, they often lack self-awareness. In fact, they might even brag about how change accepting they are and bring you examples. So this is a hard one for me to learn. I've reflected a lot on past efforts. What didn't go well? What didn't go how I expected? And this is always at play for me to some degree. And I don't use that word always lightly. So how do you recognize when you're in a change-averse environment? Because they probably aren't going to tell you. And it's going to seem simple. You will pay close attention. And specifically what I mean is if you listen to what they say and watch what they do, you will often find those are inconsistent or out of alignment. It might sound like an executive leader saying they want to do things in a new way, and then they dictate to you precisely how to approach it. It might sound like a group of people criticizing ideas that won't work without offering solutions of their own. You can also pay close attention by being curious. If you investigate when change went well, why it went well, let them be proud of it. They should be if it was real change. Why was it successful? This can become part of or inform your blueprint for your own efforts. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in point 2, which is that change-averse environments often think different won't work. Different won't work, okay? It might sound like that's not how things are done around here, but if you can make change familiar or more comfortable, then maybe it won't feel so much like change. I don't by any means mean you should dilute your efforts. I mean, you should dress them for the occasion, okay? So you can make change comfortable by adapting. Ideas aren't currency. You don't have to attempt to apply a prescriptive or preferred approach. You don't have to be too proud. The objective is to drive creativity and change, not be the single solution to their challenge. So change-averse organizations can often be very good at technical implementation, but choosing the right thing to implement and the exploration of the creative solutions on the front end are often areas of weakness for them. So you can work to blend creative and technical approaches by using their current tools, their current processes. So in a software organization if they use agile project management, or with a process improvement team that might use a Lean Six Sigma approach, you can take that technical process and permeate it with your creative exercises and methods. Right, that helps blend the creative activities and outputs into technical approaches to achieve balance. So if you're familiar with lateral thinking or the creative problem solving process, that harmony is really critical and it can really help move it along. So the third characteristic I'd like to share is that change-averse environments are often creatively insecure. Think about what that might feel like, creative insecurity. How do you make creativity accessible? So remember my moment in the baby pool. That creativity is a muscle and we all have it. Every being is creative. but not every being knows that or remembers that, even from childhood. And so this might sound like an individual actually saying, I'm not creative, go ask so-and-so. Or it might sound like an organization saying, if we only had the right people or employees, we would be able to implement this. So how do you show them that every being is creative? Remember the definition. You have to see it for what it is: the ability to make or otherwise bring into existence something new. That's a heck of a lot more than making a sculpture. Call it out, recognize and reward it in those environments, and build that confidence. You can use creative exercises. We just got a bunch of examples from our previous talk, which is perfect, to help them discover it for themselves. So if you're in a brainstorming session, you might want to reward the weirdest idea or the person with the most ideas or group with the most ideas, and not get stuck on rewarding best or right. And remind them what creativity looks like, sounds like, and feels like. It's very rewarding, especially when you've been stuck with it, with feeling like you can't advance that. I've been continually surprised at feedback that some of the most popular exercises in change-averse environments that I've worked in are the creative ones. People like to play, and play is not a waste of time. I hope you all had the pleasure of listening to Charlie Hoehn at the kickoff on Tuesday, because he spoke at length on this. And if you didn't catch it, please go back and watch. Socialize that creativity far and wide. Creativity loves oxygen, and this goes hand in hand with using momentum as your ally in these environments. An object that is in motion tends to stay in motion. So keep your pace, march through that technical process you're borrowing and infusing it with your creative approaches to drive it forward. So I couldn't help myself. I had to have a summary slide. Here it's all just right there for you, but it's not the end for today, because there's another really important piece I want to talk about, and that's what you can do to supercharge your own approach, right? We've been talking about them and those environments. Now, what about you? So I thought a lot about all of you in preparing for today. We have a diverse audience: students, academics, researchers, business professionals. So the environment we're talking about, it can be an organization. It can it can also be a team. It can be a meeting. It can be an interaction with an individual. So what we can all do today, we'll go back to the beginning again, and that creative muscle. I want you to think of your creativity as a practice. This is really important. Your creativity is a practice. It is continual. So if you want to push creativity in others, especially that aren't comfortable with it, you need to be doing that and experiencing what that's like to challenge that muscle at any level on the spectrum and build your empathy for it. We can all push that further. So you don't just get to say, I'm creative. Look, I'm here in this symposium, I'm creative, right? You have to work at it. You need to infuse your life with it. You never know what's going to happen, but it will be interesting. And it can be an asset in life and your career. It most certainly has been in mine. And when I started practicing this and adopting this, it just changed my journey completely. So pick something. Small, big, work, life. The most important thing is that you begin. And if you do begin, you might discover what happens when you wonder how your 2.5-year-old will dress themselves for the day if you don't set clothes out for them. And you end up with an amazing photo and a memory to remind you what joy comes from watching someone else's creativity come alive. You might go to your first art retreat on a whim and leave with something you actually put up in your house. And every time you pass by it, you're reminded that's something that you keep working at. You keep putting yourself out there. You try different things over and over again, and you surround yourself with it. And you just never know that the next time we meet, I could be in your audience with openness and wonder about what you might create and have to share with me. And so I just want to leave you with that. I want to thank you for your time and attention.